good afternoon. You're watching Closing Trades on ET now. I'm Anisha Jain. With me is Aisha Faridi. And for now, the market is holding into the green for now. So 23,400 is something that we're just toying with for most part of the trading session. We have been in the narrow range of around 50 to 60 points. And the nature again is tilted towards the broader markets, wherein the mid cap and the small cap indices have been faring better than the frontline index. Talking about the sectoral nature, it's clearly real estate as a pack which is bouncing back, led by the names like Sobha Limited, which is reacting to the news of the rights issue. You also have Lodha, industry is doing quite well. That's higher by 5%. Godrej Properties is also bouncing back with that 3% gain. IT2 is having a good day. Coforge, LTI Mindtree, Emphasis, these are some of the names which are holding up in the green. From the frontline index, it's L&T, which is one of your top contributors on the upside, so almost 2% higher. Reliance is also batting for the bulls, and there's good traction on M&M today ahead of that big investor day which they have lined up tomorrow, the Mahindra Group investor day that is. So ahead of that, some of these Mahindra Group stocks are in focus. HDFC also in the positive light. In the last few minutes, news has been hitting about some of the resignations coming in. So for Axis Bank, one of the leaders of the retail business has actually resigned. And for Butterfly Gandhimati, which is of course, an associate company of Crompton Consumer, that too had a resignation coming in. So just a couple of news flow there, but by and large, it's been a nothing kind of day.
Absolutely nothing. I mean, yes, there are a bunch of, news pockets in some of the stocks which are holding out. For instance, the government is now mulling an MSP hike, and that's definitely auguring well for the entire sugar pack. So most of those stocks definitely are holding up. But besides that, there's not a whole lot of news flow either, other than, what Anisha just flagged off in terms of some resignations coming in, especially the one at Axis Bank. But for now, Oracle Finance, that's your big mover, 9% higher. And remember, this was a big mover in yesterday's trading session as well. Chola Finance, Dixon, Siemens, Balrampur Chini, these are some of your big movers. And look what's happening on HDFC Life. I mean, given how, how much of an underperformance the stock has seen in the last 2 years, today actually, irrespective of the negative news flow, the stock actually perked up 1% on opening, and from there it's only built in from strength to strength and now holding up 3.5% as we speak right now. It's actually FMCG which is seeing a bit of a dip across the board. So Marico, Dabur, Unilever, they're all down in trade. But let me welcome on board Sandeep Sabharwal on that note. Sandeep, hi, afternoon. Sandeep, just wanted to revisit your thoughts on FMCG because you were constructive on some of these plays like a Dabur, for instance. Would you say deploy these kind of dips to perhaps add more positions?
Yeah, so if reasonable dips come, one should, because the stock moved from 500 to straight 620, 630. So it's a 25% plus kind of move. In stocks, which normally don't move 25% so fast. So these are typically stocks where you would be looking at mid double digit or those kind of returns. Like these are not stocks which are going to give you 50, 100% kind of returns. So you need to wait, buy at the right prices. Even now, the overall outlook for consumer stocks is constructive. And if monsoons pan out the way they are forecast to pan out, then I think they'll have further legs to go.
Okay, so that's the view coming in on the FMCG sector. But Kunal Bothra as well as C. Rudramurthy also with us on the show. Kunal, hi. Tell us, what's the market mood telling you right now? Is it worth buying perhaps, or just stay away because there's been nothing kind of move, very, very narrow today?
Yeah, if you look at the indices, it's range bound and nothing in terms of a trend. But I think the last 3 or 4 days, the action is more towards the market breadth, and you've seen so many sectors, fresh stocks making a breakout and then getting to a revival for themselves. So I think that's where a short-term trader could probably try to focus on today. For example, the sugar stocks have made a very strong comeback. Many of the chemical names, specialty chemical stocks are making a comeback. Stocks like Naveen Fluorine, for example, breaking past about the 200-day moving averages. In fact, there are many of the underperforming names from IT stocks, etc., which are also making a comeback, breaking past about the 200-day moving averages, respectively, for many of the stocks. So I believe that it's more stock specific in terms of the action. That's where one needs to concentrate on.
Okay, let me welcome on board CA Rudramurthy as well and get in a quick take from him. Rudra, hi, afternoon. What is it that you're making of this big spurt in the entire sugar pack? Any tradable opportunity? Balrampur Chini, I'm guessing.
Yeah, see, if one has to buy into sugar, yes, I would recommend Balrampur Chini as the top bet. And another stock which also looks good to me is EID Parry. So these are two strong stocks, fundamentally also good, and one can look at buying in into Balrampur Chini. If I have to look at the levels on Balrampur Chini, yes, the stock has now given a rounding bottom breakout, which is at around 420. So having seen this breakout above 420, last 2-3 trading sessions, volume has also been on the positive side, supporting the price action. So yes, one can buy at current levels, look at targets of around 475 to 480 to come on Balrampur Chini, and one can have a stop loss below the support of around 420. And similarly, if I see EID Parry, this is another stock which looks very strong, and one can look at buying EID Parry at current levels and also on dips to 650, and look at targets closer to 900 to come on EID Parry.
Sandeep, what is your own view on the entire sugar pack, considering the government is mulling an MSP hike? But for those who perhaps exited when the government flip-flop sort of happened late last year, can they look at a fresh entry point, or do you think a major chunk of the rally is behind them?
No, I think I would be quite bullish on the sugar stocks, especially those which have a sugar plus ethanol story going for them. And the other companies which also have a power story, but not to a very great extent. So main is sugar and ethanol. And the government statements post elections and government formation have been extremely constructive from the ethanol side. And there's also a high probability that some exports of sugar will also be allowed as we as we go in and towards the next sugar season, which starts in October. And most people panicked and sold out and dumped these stocks post late last year when the policy flip flop happened. So these are very under-owned stocks also. So I think uh, I would think that they are reasonably well placed. The moves till now have been very moderate relative to what the eventual moves can be.
For the time being, we have seen great moves on some of these sugar plays. Praj Industries, for instance, is up already 26% for the week. You also have Triveni Engineering 24% higher. Sri Renuka Sugars has surged almost 20%. But in terms of other big movers for the week, you have Suntec Realty, which is up almost 24%, and Paytm too, gaining almost 20%. Kunal, would you bet on these names further, Suntec as well as Paytm, or it's time now to take those profits off the table?
I think Sensex could be a good bet even at current levels. In fact, many of the real estate stocks today, for example, Godrej Properties, etc., they were making a fresh high for themselves, breaking past about 3,000 levels. DLF, I think I remember, had seen the stock breaking past about 200 DMA, which means that the real estate plays making a comeback of sorts. Paytm could be a different case altogether because the stock, even at current levels of 420, 430, where it was trading in the morning, was still trading almost 8% to 10% below its 200 moving average. So which means that the long-term trends have not changed. Yes, the stock has seen a good rally from, I think, 360, 380 to now 420, 430 plus mark. But I believe that the structure is still into a negative note for Paytm. So I would probably wait out for the stock to break past about the 200 DMA confirmation and then take a trade there.
Okay, so not that excited about Paytm at the moment, but just taking stock of what else is happening in the market. And it was all about insurance as well at the start of the trading session when we got to know about that IRDAI's master circular which had come in. Negative news in terms of the profitability as the surrender value goes up. But perhaps the overhang is out and there's a bit of certainty. Sandeep, this is a sector which has been plagued consistently by the regulatory overhangs and the changes that happened. Is it something that the investors should make a bet on purely because this sector is undervalued, or because of these regulatory overhangs? Just stay away.
So it's not an undervalued sector for sure.
Okay.
So the other point is that the regulatory issues definitely affect the valuations. And this was supposed to be a sunrise sector where these companies were supposed to create huge wealth for the shareholders. However, I think the entire growth and profitability paradigm has not played out. I have been monitoring the insurance companies for several years now. They tend to disappoint more often than actually surprise positively, and that might not change. So I think whoever is taking a bet, it's more a trading kind of bet. Long term, I find it tough to buy into these stocks.
Okay, Sandeep, stay with us. Lots more to talk about. We're going to take a very quick break on that note. And as we do that, here's a programming note for all our viewers. ET Now is celebrating its 15th anniversary with a landmark event, the ET Now Leadership Dialogues. From a keynote address by RBI Governor Shaktikanta Das to a fire chat with Keki Mistry, Dinesh Kumar Khara, Ashish Kumar Chauhan, as well as Utpal Sheth and Manish Shakhani. It's going to be an event that you cannot miss. Back with closing trades right here in ET Now. We're holding out absolutely quiet, and that's really been the case for the market. Just very, very ranged off late. No different today either. Unilever, Taracom, Britannia, ICICI Bank, Axis, they are the ones weighing a little heavy on the indexes, along with ONGC and Bharti too. But on the other hand, Shriram, HDFC Life, Divi's, Titan, L&T, M&M, they continue to hold up quite smartly in trade as we speak. And even Bajaj Finance has made a decent move. So has HDFC Bank. A very, very steady ship, about 0.5% to 1% kind of moves almost on a daily basis is what that stock has seen. But Sandeep, now all eyes are on what the budget is going to entail. Do you think it's going to turn out to be much of a big trigger?
I don't think so because, the timing of the budget is such, Aisha, that it's coming July end. And as all of us know that after the date change of the budget, the next budget will be Jan end. So, or 1st Feb, I don't remember the exact date. So then the gap between these two budgets is going to be just 6 months. So my guess is that there won't be any significant change in this budget because as it is, so much time of the quarters would already have gone by. Making any changes, etc., would be disruptive. So I think it will be more about statements in this budget, is my guess, and any major action will happen next year.
Statements, big statements coming in actually from the defense minister, wherein he's talking about how they're looking at making India an important hub for export. The domestic defense manufacturing will be further strengthened and exports from India will be taken to an unprecedented high. That's the word coming in, and a lot of these stocks have moved in the last few minutes. So case in point being Garden Reach, Mazgaon Dog, Bharat Dynamics, all of these stocks are trading at the highest point of the trading session, and there's a big traction underway because some of these stocks had seen a bit of a sell-off as well. Remember on day of that election verdict, most of these stocks were down anywhere between 20-25% thereabouts. And from there has been a steady recovery in some of these names. Even HL for that matter in the last few minutes has moved up, data patterns as well. See Rudramurthy, what's your view within the defense pack? Would you be a buyer in any of the names?
See, HAL for me looks the best out of the pack, both fundamentally and on charts also. So it is now just making that recovery back to those highs which it previously made at around 5,400 zone. And I feel this is a stock one has to have on portfolio. And even if you want to trade it in F&O, it's a stock which you can keep rolling over and continue holding long position in future. So at current market price, I will be a buyer in HIL. Any dips to levels closer to 4,800, 4,900, keep adding to your position. Look at initial targets of 5,400 to come. And once it crosses that level of 5,400, a fresh momentum will come and stock can further move up to levels closer to 6,000. So this is a stock one should definitely have in portfolio.
Okay, defense stocks definitely should be part of your portfolio. In the meantime, Sun TV definitely has seen a bit of profit taking for the last two trading sessions. Right, I think yesterday is when that Axis Capital upgrade came, and yesterday, of course, the stock was holding out well. But L&T has been quite the steady mover, Kunal. Now at 36.74 thereabouts. It's a good 2% move on the stock today.
Yeah, it's a good 2% move. It's a good 400 points move from the previous low. I think 32.50 was the low on the day of elections for L&T. The stock retested the 200-day moving average, and this was the second retest of the 200 DMA for L&T, I think in the last 1 year approximately. So I think in that time span, the stock has not retested the long-term moving average, and I think that retest has happened for the stock. I think this could be a strong breakout for L&T in terms of the positional as well as the medium-term chart outlook. I would believe that steadily the stock should scale past about the 3,800 mark, which is the previous highs for the stock. What is also very interesting is the volume setup for L&T, which I believe is the important or the key for the stock in the near to medium term. And the volumes in the last 4-5 days of the steady up move for L&T has been on the higher side. So I think that's also another reason why the stock can continue to move up higher.
Sandeep, what are you liking within the entire infrastructure gamut? I know it's a large umbrella, and given the valuations or the pricing some of these stocks are at, it may not be the best time to buy. But what is it that's on your watch list, or what is it that you recommend buying right now?
So like you rightly said, buying something from this entire infra capital good space looks tough at this stage. But I think from the stocks which we are holding and we will continue to hold are stocks like NCC, L&T, Ahluwalia Contracts, VA Tech, Webec, Raj Industries, among a few which immediately come to mind. So ABB and Siemens have done extraordinarily well. They have delivered extraordinary results over the last few quarters, and as such is reflected in the stock prices. So these two and Thermex, etc., I think they are very excessively valued. So the outlook might be good, but then the valuations are very excessive here.
Point taken. So that's if you're coming in on some of these industrials. The other stock I think which is reacting a bit is Delta Corp. There is some speculation because remember GST Council meeting is there on 22nd June. That part is confirmed, but the rest of it is read through with which the street always does. So perhaps they are anticipating some sort of discussion on online gambling. To put it across, there's no confirmed news around it, but we know as a matter of fact that on June 22nd there is a GST Council meeting for sure. But on Delta Corp specifically, Kunal, is there a view or a recommendation?
No, nothing as such. I think I've stopped tracking the stock since the time it had broken down below the 200 levels and remained at 170, 150 mark for quite some time. In fact, the stock recently made a low, I think if I'm not wrong, just about closer to 100 or 105 was the low for the stock. So no recommendations over here.
Okay, no recommendations, but off late some of these logistics stocks are also firing up. Let's pull up Aegis Logistics. Now, it's not purely a logistics company. Of course, it has those, containers and the terminals for the LNG, CNG bit, but you have Concor, which was reacting yesterday, and a couple of other names like Adani Ports, etc., continue to be in favor. Sandeep, is this a space, infrastructure and logistics, which you're looking at, whether warehousing, whether, of course, some of these port players?
Not really. I haven't invested in any of them.
Okay, so not really looking at some of these other different sectors, but what are you sticking to? Are you sticking with those, private banking names and those auto stocks, or are there some new bets that you're also making right now?
I think in the infra capex themes, I already talked of autos, M&M and Maruti. I continue to hold. So I think along with Tata Motors, it's a pick. Like all these stocks have done well actually. On telecom, Bharti continues to be a decent story for the long term. On consumer, we talked about Dabur, Tata Consumer, Godrej Consumer. I think these companies are doing well, but at what price you want to buy, you have to see. I think there's a whole plethora of opportunities out there. It all depends on the price at which you buy and what upside you see from those levels.
Sandeep, the other thing I wanted to talk to you about is insurance stocks. I mean, of course, they've had such underperformance, which has lasted for, I think, almost 2 years now. But it seems that this entire news around surrender payouts, it is, of course, is going to impact profitability. But companies like HDFC Life have, given a statement that it's only going to be 100 bips kind of an impact, which they'll surely be able to absorb.
See, Aisha, that's the typical statement of management. When there's a negative development, they'll always say it won't impact us much. When there's a positive development, they'll say that it will have a very good impact on our company. Now, as an investor, you have to decide yourself. How do you see that? In any case, it's been an underperforming sector where delivery has been muted. On top of that, if you get some further overhangs, it's very tough to see how the performance will come.
But Sandeep, on that note, we'll let you go. Thank you so much for making time and speaking with us. But since we're talking about that GST Council meeting, which is scheduled for 22nd June, let me take it across to Sumit to get more details on this one. Hi, Sumit.
Well, yes, the meeting is happening on 22nd of this month, which is next Saturday. Big issues would be rate rationalization. Items or agenda still not been floated yet. However, compliance issues will also be there. One issue of lower taxation of hybrid cars may not be considered there as well. So many other rate rationalization issues could be there. That is one likely possibility that can happen. Well, last October GST council meeting happened that last time, and 28% levy on online games, casino, horse racing was levied. That was the time it happened. And this is going to be the first such meeting after the Lok Sabha elections have gotten over, and under the chairpersonship of Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman, it's happening once again. So big issue is rate rationalization. Agenda still to be floated. That is to be seen what main minor item are going to be there.
Okay, Sumit, we'll leave it at that. That's what's on the agenda of the next Saturday GST Council meeting. But on that note, let's get in some closing ideas as well. Rudra, what's on your list?
For me, ABFRL looks a very, very strong stock. Having made a breakout above levels of around 300, ABFRL is now consolidating for last 2-3 days. A big move can be expected in ABFRL, available in futures, looking at initial target of 350 with a stop loss of 315.
Right. And Kunal, what about your strategies?
So I'll go with the IndusInd Bank. That's a chart which has apparently gone to a sideways range over the last 4 to 5 days. And I think at 1500 levels, the stock looks attractive, and it's completing a bullish flag formation, which could be at least a 60 to 80 pointer pattern for IndusInd Bank.
Okay, so IndusInd Bank is the stock that Kunal is recommending. But it's time now to slip into a very short break. But as we do that, listen in to the views coming in of the new CII chief, Mr. Sanjeev Puri of ITC. He's of course optimistic about India and expecting that 8% GDP growth rate to really continue.
We are more optimistic than all the reports or the estimates that have come out from agencies within and outside India. They have a figure which is somewhere in the region of 7, little bit plus minus, you can say. We are more optimistic. It is 8. That is the estimate by CII. Monsoons are going to get better, so agriculture production could be better. Clearly, we are expecting all the 3 sectors of the economy to fire: agriculture, services, and industry, all to do well next year. So expect public capex to continue to grow. We expect that the pace of reforms will only accelerate in mission mode. So we are seeing that the pace of growth of the economy will also accelerate. It took 10 years in the past for the economy to double from 1.7 to 3.4 trillion. We now believe it will take about 7 years to do that, going from 3.4 to 7 by 29-30.
Welcome back. As we are discussing, it is the defense stocks which are clearly spiking, as the reason is that the new defense minister took charge, Mr. Rajnath Singh, and he talked about making India not only self-reliant but also an export hub. Listen into that conversation because all of those stocks are spiking up.
जो हमारे पहले प्रायोरिटीज थी वही आगे भी हमारी प्रायोरिटीज रहेंगी, और भारत की अभेद्य सुरक्षा और साथ ही साथ भारत की अजेय सेना और हमारे सैनिकों का कल्याण, ये हमारी प्रायोरिटीज में विशेष रूप से शामिल है। यानी हम चाहते हैं कि सशक्त भारत का निर्माण हो, आत्मनिर्भर भारत का निर्माण हो, ये हमारा उद्देश्य है। और साथ ही साथ रक्षा उत्पाद में हम आत्मनिर्भर बने, ये सबसे बड़ा उद्देश्य हमारा है। और इस दिशा में एक मंजिल हम लोगों ने तय की है, और आप सब लोगों को मालूम है कि 21,000 करोड़ से अधिक का हम लोगों ने एक्सपोर्ट किया है, जो कि एक हिस्टोरिकल ये अचीवमेंट है। और मेरा तो टारगेट ये है कि इसको हम कम से कम 5 साल समाप्त होते होते 50,000 करोड़ से ऊपर ले जाएं, ये हमारा उद्देश्य है।
Big spike up in almost all the defense names across the board pretty much. In fact, on that note, let me also take it across to Ansh, find out what else has been buzzing in trade. Ansh?
Yes, so L&T Finance is the first stock in focus, as the stock has given a good breakout from its downward sloping resistance trend line, and it has also touched a 3-month high level, and the breakout is actually backed by volume of over 8 times its average trading volume of last 20 session, indicating good participation in today's breakout. Apart from this, IEX will also be in focus, as the stock has given a breakout from its horizontal resistance zone, which has been intact since start of 2024, hitting 2-year high and advancing for 7th consecutive session. And the volume here is over 3 times its average trading volume of last 20 sessions. Oracle Financial is also in focus as the stock has actually given a breakout from its key resistance of 9,000 level, gaining over 20% this month, hitting record high level as well. And today's breakout is backed by volume of over 10 times its average volume of 20 sessions. Also, Aegis Logistics will be in focus as the stock has given a breakout from its upward sloping resistance trend line with volume of over 2 times its 10 session average volume. Also, there are high chances of Sun TV getting into ban list tomorrow. So keep an eye on these stocks.
Okay, bunch of stocks which are holding out. Let me welcome on board Sudeep Bandyopadhyay as well and find out what his market view is right now. Sudeep, hi, afternoon. After all that flux that the markets went through all through the election week, do you think it's, I mean, we've already seen consolidation play out, but do you think it's going to continue for some more time?
Absolutely. I think, look, while we are consolidating at an elevated level. And I think this is the trend which we'll keep watching. The next big trigger will be, of course, the union budget, which is coming up sometimes, within the next 15 to 20 days, maybe. The next thing important, of course, which the market will keep monitoring is the progress of monsoon. I think these are the two critical things which the market will keep wondering and keep monitoring. Of course, as soon as the month of July starts, the earnings season for the first quarter will also start and the market will monitor. But these are factors which market will worry about. But the biggest and most important thing which is pushing the market up is the liquidity, unabated and continuous flow of liquidity, both domestic as well as international. I think that will continue and that will ensure that market keeps moving up. At every higher level, there will be a bit of consolidation for some time and then again it will reach a new level. So, I think this year we will see a secular upward movement with in between consolidations at different higher levels.
Okay, so that's the latest coming in on some of these stocks and sectors. But tomorrow, Mahindra Group's Investor Day is there. So, the Mahindra Group has definitely undergone a big transition over the last 3 to 4 years since Dr. Anisha has taken over. Do you think there is those untapped gems still in the group that you think can still re-rate from here on? Have you looked at some of these group companies closely?
We have, and there are interesting companies and interesting stories. But as things stand today, even now, Mahindra does look good. The flagship company, Mahindra and Mahindra, M&M does look good. M&M has been firing on pretty much all cylinders except tractors, because tractors is something which was the volumes were subdued because of monsoon and rural distress or whatever. But as things look now, I think with a good monsoon, tractor volumes also are expected to pick up. So once the tractor volume starts picking up, I think we will see further upside in M&M. The company has done, fantastically well as far as the SUV business is concerned. They have done well in other smaller segments as well, including farm equipments. But I think the tractor is one thing which was, performance in tractors was missing, and that will be icing on the cake as and when it happens. So this is one good company, definitely of the group, which we should look at. M&M Financial is a company which, while the potential is huge, at this stage, we are not recommending a buy in M&M Financial. There are multiple reasons, including, what's happening in rural India. Things are supposed to pick up, but we'll wait and watch.
That's what Sudeep is liking within the entire M&M group. But Kunal, what do you think is the strongest chart when it comes to the Mahindra group, and would you continue to bet on M&M?
Yeah, I think M&M is the strongest name from the pack. I think that stock has done exceptionally well. Even at current levels, I think it's nearing just 150 points away from 3,000 mark, and this is an exceptional move for M&M. I remember, I think 2022 made the stock started off this move from 750. 775 odd levels, and the stock has done reasonably well and been more consistent with the up move. Mahindra and Mahindra Finance also is an interesting chart. Even though the stock had gone through a sharp phase of correction, I think from 315 levels towards 245 to 50 odd mark, but recently the stock has made a strong comeback. I think 285 to 90 is where the stock had broken past about this 200-day moving average range. So that's also another interesting name. Of course, in terms of price recovery, this stock can also tend to recover quite smartly from here. The high beta nature of the stock could also propel the stock on a much higher basis. But I would believe M&M is a much more consistent chart, and I think even a 5% dip, say 150 odd points correction from a swing high, is generally a good opportunity to try and chip in.
Okay, so that's about the Mahindra group of stocks. Definitely all eyes will be on that investor day tomorrow. So keenly watching out for what comes next, because they had given very clear indications about the kind of loss-making businesses they had to get out of, how they are very focused about their ROEs and the return ratios, and they've managed to deliver it at least so far. And those were some difficult calls that Dr. Anisha had to take with respect to weeding out some of the loss-making businesses, but has created huge amount of wealth for the investors. Especially M&M has seen quite a bit of re-rating already, and even in the month gone by, M&M has seen a solid run. In terms of the other internals of the market, yes, insurance is one pocket which is running along, sugar is the other one, but chemicals as well as fertilizers has been one space which has some people on the sidelines as such. Sudeep, would you want to dive in right now within these chemicals and fertilizers stock, or still wait for some stability, because quarter after quarter the management commentary continues to be maybe we'll see recovery after a couple of quarters?
I agree with you. I think this is one sector which has disappointed the investors for quite some time. And, even last quarter, I think results were nothing great. But we do see green shoots in this segment. And we believe that, I think, a turnaround like scenario in this sector will emerge very soon. As far as, specialty chemicals and chemicals is concerned, there are pockets which are doing well, like CSM segment, which PI Industries is present, and I think that is one area where there is significant potential, and they have been doing pretty well, and they will continue to do well. The other companies which are getting into CSM segment also have good potential. However, the generic special chemicals and specialty chemical companies have been suffering because of the overproduction and dumping by China in the global markets, and also the general industrial demand coming down in Europe and to an extent in US. But I think things are turning around. The stocks are depleting, and we expect recovery in some of these focused chemicals and agrochemical companies. So, some of the companies, even a company like UPL, which is the 5th largest agrochemical company in the world with global scale operations in multiple geographies across the world, I think we may see recovery very soon there as well. However, I must warn that, if you are an aggressive investor, then only enter these chemical companies at this stage, because there are still a lot of volatility, and these are global commodities which they deal with. So the factors keep changing on a continuous basis. Volatility is the order of the day as far as chemicals are concerned. So be a little careful when you're entering chemicals.
Okay, let me take it across very quickly to Sharad as well and find out what's the chatter across the dealing rooms, and is it as quiet as it is in the market? Sharad?
Well, yes, in focus, the stock is Navin Fluorine from the chemical space, and what we are gathering from dealers is domestic institution buying is coming across a couple of counters. Largely, a PMS is said to be adding its position already in the company. Now, the stock itself is at a 5-month high levels, and the last 6 sessions, the stock has been trading in the green, as well as we are seeing buying happening across the domestic institutions. Now, interestingly, the key domestic institutions already invested in the company includes the names such as ICICI Pru Mutual Fund and Aditya Birla Mutual Fund, and even ace investor Ajay Upadhyay has 1% stake in the company. But Street is factoring in a major announcement, and that is the new MD Nitin Kulkarni has been appointed for the next 5 years. Now, interestingly, this important appointment is something which the Street is cheering, because he has a strong experience in the specialty chemical CDMO segment for last 30 years, and he was already heading the business development in the specialty chemical in the company way back in the 90s and the early 2000s for the company. So that is something the Street is very bullish on. Also, there has been a revival coming in the chemical pricing of certain products of there as per our channel checks, but the overall export data which we saw for the month of May is still dismal when it comes to Navin Fluorine. But we are seeing PMS and some domestic institutions lapping up the shares as per channel checks.
Okay, time now to get some BTSC trades from technical experts. Kunal, you go first.
Gujarat Gas is something which I'll be bullish on. The stock completing a bullish flag formation on the daily charts above 600 levels. So, would suggest to buy with 655 as a target, stop loss at 612. And Garden Reach is something which I'll be bullish on, especially after today's move. The stock has already moved higher to 1500 levels, so I think traders could look at a fresh target on the upside, say closer to 1585, and stop loss could now be trailed to 1485.
Rudramurthy, what's on your list?
For me, Vedanta looks very strong. It is now consolidating at levels closer to that 435, 440 zone. One can buy for a target of 455 with a stop loss of 435. And Adani group of stocks also having made a consolidation is now ready for a next up move. So for me, the preference is in Adani Enterprises, looking at target of 3,275 with a stop loss of 3,190.
Sandeep, in the last few minutes, we have seen a bit of a up move on some of these hospital stocks. So Fortis, for instance, is actually higher by 2.5%, and Max Healthcare was having a good run this week. In fact, yesterday that stock was up 8%, Sudeep. Today as well, that stock is in the green. What's your view on the hospital stocks?
Entire hospital and healthcare segment has witnessed significant amount of activity over the last 1.5 to 2 years. There has been a lot of corporate action, acquisitions, PE funds coming in and investing more and more money, and consolidation. So I think it's a very, very interesting space. The scope and opportunity of this space to grow continuously over the next 5-10 years is humongous. And I strongly believe that companies like Apollo, Max Health, I think they will continue to deliver excellent performance and growth year on year. So yes, the valuations of both these stocks I mentioned have reached elevated levels, but still I think there is a significant opportunity considering the rate at which they are growing and then they can grow in future. As far as the diagnostic space is concerned, I'm a bit conservative there. The competition intensity has increased significantly and may further increase in the near future. And the pricing and the margins are under pressure. So the diagnostic space is a bit careful, what I would recommend investors. As far as pure play hospitals, I think the sky is the limit, and well-managed hospitals can definitely be acquired for long-term hold.
Okay, point taken. So hospital stocks are clearly taking a lot of traction right now, and there's good reason, as Sudeep was also talking about it. In the meantime, taking stock of what else is happening in the market, not really too much. It's Oracle Finance, which is up another 10% today. Remember yesterday as well, that stock was higher. Rudra, do you look at this one, Oracle? Because I know the global company and the parent reported its earnings and they were strong in terms of the guidance. But not sure why the company back home is also that interested in it.
See, first of all, the fundamental reason is free float is too small for this company, and it is just that which is making the stock to move up like this. And even on chart, if you see, yes, around 9,000 the stock had resistance, and now having seen a breakout above levels of 9,000 today, and also there is support of volume, and as such even IT as a sector is doing great. So OFS is also making a good move. So as a trader, any dips to levels closer to that 9,000, which is a bit far from current level, yes, you can look at buying. And I would rather prefer stocks like Wipro or even Tech Mahindra for that matter, LTIM from IT as a sector. So OFSs, for me, the risk reward doesn't favor me to buy at current market price, but definitely it's a buy on dip. However, I would prefer Wipro, Tech Mahindra or LTIM from the IT sector, and I'm very, very bullish on IT as a sector from these levels.
Coming in on IT sector at the moment as to what's happening there. But in the meantime, we're just watching out for the market mood right now. And at the index, it's been quiet. I mean, one would assume that perhaps the ticker is not moving because since the time we started off the show, it's been just around that 23,395 thereabouts. Bank Nifty has been, headed lower, and the broader markets are outperforming a bit. But at the index level, it's really, really quiet at the moment. It's clearly about individual names because the broader market is outperforming. But talking about the banking sector, Sudeep, is it time to put money to work in the banking stocks, whether the large caps, whether PSUs, whether mid-tier, or perhaps you'll get better chances, stay away from the underperformer for now?
Well, I think if you are looking at a short term, I think it's better to stay away because, Bank Nifty has been struggling to touch 50,000. It did touch on third, the exit poll day, but otherwise it has not reached that level and is finding it extremely difficult to reach. Fundamentally, what is happening as far as the entire banking space is concerned is that the credit growth opportunity will definitely emerge. However, the deposit growth, basically the liability side, the liability mobilization is becoming a challenge within a reasonable cost. Now, every bank is struggling with the kind of challenge that how they can keep mobilizing deposits at low cost, build CASA, and support loan growth. Now, remember, if they increase the cost of deposits, I think the margin gets affected, and that is not a very welcome development. So, under the circumstances, pretty much focus has now shifted from asset quality and other things to the deposit mobilization, the CASA increase, and things like that, where the banks are finding it challenging. So, under the circumstances, I would say that for a short-term investor, I think it's not ideal to enter. I'm not talking about day trading and things like that. But from a long-term point of view, if somebody is looking at this entire space, I believe, let's say a bank like an HDFC Bank at current level does provide an interesting opportunity. PSU, SBI we like, but not at current level because it has moved up quite a bit, and no point entering it at this stage for, maybe there'll be better opportunities later. So private sector, large cap bank like an HDFC can be looked at current level from a long-term investor's point of view.
Sure. Sudeep, what's your view then on the IT pack?
Well, Aisha, I've been positive on IT, and I believe that the entire talk about fresh orders not coming, US slowing down, and all that has been proven to be wrong. US hasn't slowed down. US growth is on. There are challenges here and there in pockets, but fundamentally, US economy is strong. There is no recession whatsoever. Under these circumstances, the large US conglomerates have to and will start spending, start increasing their IT spend. This quarter, the current quarter we are in, that is Q1, we may not see a major improvement as far as Indian large IT company financials are concerned. But I expect from Q2 onwards, we will start seeing incremental orders will start having positive impact on their financials. And that will start getting reflected in the prices as well. As far as mid-cap IT is concerned, I think one needs to be a bit careful about the valuations at which they are. However, one can focus on specific verticals. What I mean is that, let's say, travel and tourism globally is doing exceedingly well. Now, an IT company focused on travel and tourism will continue to do well, irrespective of the valuation at which it is quoting. Similarly, IT companies focused on automation, on the automobile industry, the EV transition, and things like that. Let's say Persistent Systems, Tata Technologies. I think these are the companies in the mid-cap space which one can buy for long term.
Okay. In the meantime, just want to mark a couple of other movers. While the Nifty is really not doing anything and we're just lying very quiet and ranged on the index, just a couple of buzzers in trade. Oracle Finance, of course, is holding out well. It's now notched up a good 11%, in fact, in trade. Siemens, Chola Finance, Dixon is higher by 5.5%. Balrampur Chini is perked up quite nicely. L&T is now sitting at a 2% gain. While it may not reflect really on the index because that has its own share of tug of war playing out right now, but HDFC Life 3.25% higher there. M&M holding out by about almost 2.6%. Titan looking good, and of course, some of these sporadic technology plays are looking very smart. The one stock which is actually holding up very well is also Paytm. It's up a good 7% for a second consecutive session. I mean, yes, it's partnered with Samsung, but in the meantime, IRDAI has also accepted the withdrawal of application for registration for Paytm as a general insurance company by Paytm General Insurance. Sudeep, just wanted to understand, I mean, it's pretty speculative, all the news flow right now around Paytm. You wouldn't venture in to buy this stock right now, would you?
No, definitely not, Aisha. I think it's all, a lot of news is coming out. Things haven't stabilized. There are lots of moving parts. We don't know where things will settle, when things will settle. So, buying currently is a pure participation in speculation, and I won't recommend that. Let's wait and watch. Let's see where Paytm settles, what are their main businesses, what are the revenue streams, and then only take a call as far as Paytm is concerned.
Sugar though, Sandeep, Sudeep, the government is mulling raising the season sugar minimum sale price. I mean, all these sugar stocks are on a tear, but there's been quite a flip-flop as well, which the government has done previously late last year, which is when you did see a massive correction play out also on the sugar stocks. But what's the call now?
I think sugar is going to be good. I think there are some long-term trends which are emerging in sugar, which are excellent for the industry. First of all, this ethanol blending. Its government is talking about already they have reached about 15% limit, and they're talking about taking it to 20% by FY25 end. And so, under the circumstances, this is a structural change which is happening in the sugar industry, and it will help. Of course, the MSP needs to be relooked, MSP needs to be increased so that the industry continues to survive and thrive. That I am reasonably confident that that will happen, considering that we are past the elections. So I think things should fall back to normal levels, and MSP will be looked at definitely. The other interesting factor which is happening as we speak is there has been an unseasonal rain and flood in Brazil, which has affected the crop there. And that definitely will have some impact on this entire sugar business and sugar industry. We'll have to wait and watch how that pans out, how that impact pans out, what the government does do. Do they allow more exports catering to the incremental global demand or not? And we have to examine all that and see.
Right. Okay, Sudeep, we'll let you go on that note. Thanks as always for taking the time out and joining in. Just looking at a couple of buzzers as we wind down on trade. M&M, HDFC Life, Shriram, of course, has spurt up quite a fair bit. Shriram Finance is now sitting at the day's highs, and it's a solid 4.5% move that you're seeing on this stock. Kunal, would this qualify as a breakout? Because you don't see such big moves on this particular stock.
Yeah, these are very rare kind of moves, but Aisha, I think it's coming for many of these financial services name, which means that it's not an individual breakout for the stock. It's more of a sector breakout. Chola Finance has done reasonably well. That stock has looked quite strong. We've seen L&T Finance also recovering to 170, 175 odd zone, which was the previous major resistances. So that stock could also be heading towards a breakout. So there are a lot many names in the sector which have started to perk up quite well, and I believe that that's a strong indication of the trends recovering and stabilizing for the financial services name. Now, Shriram Finance as well as Chola Finance are the two names which I would believe hold the leadership quality for the sector in terms of the price performance, because you've seen the price recovery for these names to be amongst the first as compared to many of the other peers. And I think that's where one should try and concentrate on. So given the kind of wide variety the sector offers, I would believe Shriram Finance, Chola Finance, and maybe even L&T Finance could be some interesting picks over here.
Right. Okay, those are a couple of interesting ideas coming in there from Kunal. Rudra, just wanted to get your sense in also. Any trend that you're betting on for tomorrow?
See, for me, AB Capital looks very, very good. After a long consolidation, the stock is now breaking out. So AB Capital at current market price can be bought looking at targets of 265 with a stop loss of around 235. Even L&T Finance looks very good for me, and stock is now consolidating after the breakout. I am looking at targets of around 200 to come on L&T Finance. So AB Capital and L&T Finance, positionally one can go long.
Lined up for tomorrow. When it comes to India and the macro data points, you've got the WPI inflation, which is due for its release. The forex reserves levels as well are going to be released. US Fed's balance sheet and the monetary policy report will also come out after the Fed decision last night. Back home, of course, you'll also have the Mahindra Group Investor Day. This is going to be quite critical. We've seen many companies hold their investor days, and you just heard out from Tata Motors management as well. So let's see what the Mahindra Group really has to say. EIH Associate Hotels, they're going to be issuing bonus shares. So look out for what this stock does. And a bunch of other HEMs, Unilever, Adani Energy, Adani Green Energy, Adani Power, all of them slated for tomorrow. But I'm going to hand it over to Vinny then and find out what the closing trades have been like.
So yeah, Aisha, seems like, we had a range-bound day after touching those all-time high levels for the Nifty. We saw it closing around 23,400 levels now is what the Nifty will be closing at. The highest level was 23,481, which was a record high, a new high for the Nifty. But yes, at the end of the day, it didn't manage to hold on to those gains, gave up those gains, and now quite range bound is what we saw for the benchmark indices. Let's pull up the broader markets that managed to sustain, recovered from the day's lowest point, and since then they managed to hold on to those gains. So look at the Nifty mid cap, Nifty small cap as of now, managing to hold on and closing with gains of almost 0.8% is the broader market. So what we overall saw for the indices, what we saw, FMCG again not performing well. Nifty FMCG also closed, is going to be closing in the red, because we had, whether you look at an HUL, Britannia, Tata Consumers, all of them actually quite subdued and pressure building in on that front, while Nestle did manage to see some bit of a spike up in the day morning. What was the reason for Nestle spiking up was that, obviously the royalty fees that they will be paying the parent company, that was at the same level, 4.5% for the next 5 years. So we did see a bit of a positive sign coming in for Nestle on that front. But other than that, 23,400 for the benchmark indices, Nifty Realty holding on to 2% gain. So we had Soba Developers, Brigade Enterprises, Godrej Properties, all of them is what one should be keeping an eye out on. Nifty Bank also, overall when you look at Nifty Bank, fell as much as 350 points from the day's highest level, and Nifty Bank closing absolutely almost flattish with a negative bias is what we could call for the Nifty Bank. Advance decline ratio, though, clearly in the favor of advances versus decline is what we saw. Other than that, let's look at Nifty IT, because that was also chirped up in trade today, a percent of gains what we saw for Nifty IT. And in terms of the movers that came in, we had Emphasis that was in focus. We did have a brokerage note that came in there, LTI Mindtree, we had Coforge, TechM, TCS, all managing to hold on to gains. And the reason why we saw a bit of an up move for the markets was pulled up by the IT as well as the realty names that were chirped up in trade. Other than that, Oracle Financial Services continues to gain for the third consecutive day. We had commentary that came in a few days back from Oracle, the global company Oracle, which was there, but that was a positive commentary in terms of guidance. And after that, it continues to see that Oracle Financial Services, the Indian company, also continues to see a bit of an up move. Let's move on to talk about some of these nifty movers that we had today. DV's Lab, HDFC Life, those life insurance names were surely chirped up in trade after we saw the circular that came in terms of the surrender value. So yes, that is why we're seeing HDFC Life and SBI Life slight bit of a mutus, but HDFC Life was clearly among the gainers that we saw. Other than that, we saw M&M, Titan and which was quite perked up in trade, as well as DV's Lab, which managed to hold on to decent gains. When you look at it overall in terms of the move that one is seeing in the mid and small cap, what was outperforming today in the mid cap names is even a Paytm. So we did have announcements that came in for a Paytm, keeping an eye out on that one. Mazgaon Dock, Bharat Dynamics, Gujarat Gas, all of these managing to hold on to gains. That's how we'll be closing our day. Nifty remained range bound, but broader markets continue to outperform today.
If you like this video, then like, share and subscribe to ET Now.